My husband humiliated me in front of his friends and called it a joke. I laughed along when my husband humiliated me in front of his friends because that's what he expected. It took me 6 years to realize that was the real joke. From the outside, our life looks normal, even enviable. We're in our early 30s, financially stable, no kids yet, a clean apartment, weekend plans, and photos that get plenty of likes. My husband is charismatic, funny, and the kind of guy everyone wants to be around. People constantly tell me how lucky I am to have married him. For a long time, I believed that too. I told myself that love sometimes means learning to laugh at yourself. But there's a difference between laughing with someone and being laughed at. I didn't notice when that line got crossed, only that somewhere along the way, I stopped speaking freely in rooms where my husband was present. I started measuring my words, shrinking my reactions, and smiling through discomfort because it was easier than being labeled too sensitive. That night, standing in my own living room while his friends laughed at my expense, something finally clicked. I wasn't part of the joke anymore. I was the punchline. I never thought I'd be the kind of person posting on Reddit about my marriage, but here I am, typing this at 2:37 a.m. because sleep refuses to come. My chest feels tight, my thoughts won't slow down, and every time I close my eyes, I replay the same moment over and over again. Maybe writing this out will help me understand whether I'm overreacting or finally seeing something I've been ignoring for years. For context, I'm 32, my husband is 35, and we've been married for 6 years. Together for 9, no kids yet. From the outside, we look like that perfect couple. Stable jobs, nice apartment, weekend trips, smiling photos on Instagram. Behind closed doors, though, things have always been complicated. My husband, let's call him Mark, is the kind of guy everyone loves. He's loud, confident, sarcastic, and always the funny one in the room. His friends adore him. His family thinks he can do no wrong. And for a long time, I told myself that his sense of humor was just part of the package. I'm quieter. I work in marketing, I'm more introverted, and I've always been the type to think before I speak. Mark used to say he liked that about me, that I balanced him out. But lately, it feels less like balance and more like target practice. The night it happened. Last Saturday, Mark invited a few of his friends over to our place to watch a game. Nothing unusual. He didn't ask me if it was okay. He rarely does, but I didn't mind. I cleaned the apartment, ordered snacks, and even made a dip his friends like because I wanted everything to be nice. By the time they arrived, there were 6 of them, loud, already half drunk, joking around like they owned the place. At first, everything was fine. I stayed in the kitchen, refilling drinks, smiling when spoken to. I've always felt slightly invisible around his friends, but again, I told myself I was being sensitive. Then Mark called out loud enough for everyone to hear, "Hey babe, come here for a second." I walked into the living room feeling that familiar knot in my stomach. He had his arm around one of his friends and a beer in his hand. He was grinning. "So, tell them about that time you cried because Starbucks messed up your order." The room went quiet for half a second. I froze. "What?" "Oh, come on," he laughed. "You remember, you were devastated. I thought you were going to need therapy over a latte." His friends burst out laughing. I felt my face heat up. That story wasn't even true the way he was telling it. What actually happened was that I'd been having a horrible day. My boss had yelled at me, my mom was in the hospital, and yes, the wrong coffee was the last straw. I cried in my car. I had told him that in confidence. I forced a smile. "That's not really how it—" "See?" Mark cut in. "She's doing it now. So emotional." More laughter. Something inside me cracked. It kept getting worse. I tried to excuse myself, but Mark wasn't done. Wait, tell them about how you still can't parallel Kark, or how you Google everything because you can't make a decision without the internet." One of his friends said, "Damn, Mark, you really married a high-maintenance one, huh?" Mark smirked. "You have no idea." I stood there, surrounded by people in my own home, feeling smaller by the second. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. I finally said quietly, "Mark, can we not do this?" He rolled his eyes. "Relax, it's a joke." That word, joke, it felt like a slap. I walked back into the bedroom and shut the door. I could still hear them laughing, the TV blaring, life going on like I hadn't just been torn apart piece by piece. I sat on the edge of the bed and stared at my hands, wondering why I felt like crying, but also screaming at the same time. The conversation after. They left around midnight. I was still awake. Mark came into the bedroom, clearly annoyed. "What's your problem?" he asked. "My problem?" I repeated. "Yeah, you made it super awkward. You stormed off like a child." I took a deep breath. "You humiliated me in front of your friends." He scoffed. "Oh my God, are you seriously still on that? It was a joke. I asked you to stop, and I'm saying you're too sensitive," he snapped. "Everyone was laughing." "Not me." "Well, that's on you," he said. "You need to learn how to take a joke." That was the moment something shifted inside me, because it wasn't the first time. The pattern I can't see now. When I think back, there are dozens of moments like this. The time he joked about my weight at a family barbecue, the time he told his coworkers I was basically useless with money, the time he mocked my anxiety during a dinner party. Every single time I said something later. Every single time he said the same thing. "It's just a joke. You're overreacting." Everyone else thought it was funny. I started believing that maybe I really was the problem. But here's the thing. Jokes are supposed to make people laugh, not feel ashamed, not feel small, not make you cry alone in your bedroom. Why I'm posting this? I haven't talked to anyone about this yet. Not my friends, not my family. Part of me is embarrassed. Part of me is scared of what they might say. I love my husband, or at least I love the version of him that I thought I married, but I don't know how to stay married to someone who thinks my pain is entertainment. So Reddit, I'm asking again. Am I overreacting? Or have I been slowly conditioned to accept disrespect because it was delivered with a smile and laughter? Because right now, the hardest part isn't what he did in front of his friends. It's realizing how long I let it happen. That night, after Mark said, "You need to learn how to take a joke," he turned over and went to sleep like nothing had happened. I lay there staring at the ceiling, counting the cracks, listening to his breathing slowly even out. The man who had just made me feel like a punchline was asleep within minutes. I didn't sleep at all. Instead, my mind started doing something it hadn't done before. It started connecting dots. Looking back at the early days, when Mark and I first started dating, his humor was actually what drew me to him. He was charming, quick-witted, the kind of guy who could make a whole room laugh. I remember thinking, he's so confident, so sure of himself. The first joke came about a year into our relationship. We were at a party and someone asked how we met. Before I could answer, Mark laughed and said, "She stalked me. I swear if I hadn't agreed to go out with her, she probably would have followed me home." Everyone laughed. I laughed too, even though it wasn't true. I told myself, he's exaggerating, it's harmless. After the party, I told him it bothered me. He kissed my forehead and said, "You're too serious sometimes. You know I'm kidding." And I let it go. That became our pattern. How I slowly disappeared. Over the years, I started talking less in group settings. I learned which opinions of mine he would mock. I stopped correcting him when he twisted stories because it was easier than dealing with the eye rolls and sighs. I started rehearsing sentences in my head before speaking. Is this worth being laughed at later? Will he use this against me? I didn't realize it at the time, but I was shrinking myself to survive my own marriage. The worst part? He wasn't always like this. When we were alone, he could be kind, gentle even. He'd hold my hand, ask about my day, tell me he loved me. That made it confusing. How do you reconcile the man who comforts you when you cry with the man who makes other people laugh because you're crying? The week after the incident. For days after the game night, I felt numb. Mark acted completely normal. He joked, he laughed, he asked what I wanted for dinner. At one point, he even said, "See, everything's fine. You just needed to cool off." I didn't argue. I didn't explain. I didn't have the energy. Instead, I called my best friend, Emily, and asked if she wanted to grab coffee. I hadn't told her everything before. I don't know why. Maybe I didn't want to hear what she might say. Halfway through telling her about that night, my voice cracked. She didn't interrupt me, she just listened. When I finished, she said something I wasn't prepared for. "That's not humor, that's contempt." I blinked. "What?" She leaned forward. "He doesn't joke with you, he jokes about you, and only when there's an audience." That sentence sat heavy in my chest, the moment of clarity. That evening, Mark had his friends over again. I didn't even know until I heard the door open. I stayed in the kitchen pretending to be busy. Then I heard him say my name. "Hey, come here." My stomach dropped.
I walked into the living room slowly, heart pounding. He smirked. "Tell them why you don't like horror movies." I hesitated. "I just don't." "Oh, come on. Tell them how you cried for 3 days after watching one scene. She's so fragile." The room laughed again. Something inside me finally snapped. Not explosively, but quietly, like a thread being cut. I realized something terrifyingly clear. He knew exactly what he was doing. Because if it was just a joke, he would have stopped the first time I asked. The confrontation. After everyone left, I didn't go to the bedroom. I sat at the kitchen table. Mark noticed immediately. "What now?" I looked at him and said calmly, "Why do you enjoy embarrassing me?" He laughed. "I don't." "You do. You only make those jokes in front of other people, never when we're alone." His smile faded slightly.